Hey guys, welcome to this two-part series on how to make a YouTube playlist app using the YouTube API. In this first part, we're going to deal with making HTML and CSS for our app. Okay guys, so here we have the app that we're going to be creating today. Simple YouTube playlist app that pulls in all the information using the YouTube API, including these thumbnails here, the title, description, even the video. So basically what it does is I've created a playlist here on my YouTube channel, and the link for all the stuff I give you links for will be in the description. And there's 12 videos in here. So this playlist will be pulled into our app. You can see the order is the same in our app here. It will be pulled in using the YouTube API, right? Cool, so let's get started. So the first thing we want to do, we probably want to create this central div here in the middle where it's white. Then this div is built into sections. So there's a header, another section, and the main bit. So let's build that section. So jump into CodePen. First thing, I just want you to check that you have a few things ready. So jump into the settings cog at the side of the CSS and make sure you have normalize and auto prefix on. These will just help your the app just look the way it should in different applications. So save and close that, and we're ready to go. So let's create this central div. And we're using emit again, so instead of writing div with a class equals container, etc., we're just going to say .container and hit the tab button. And there we go, it's written the div out for us. So inside the container, we have the header where the logo sits, so we can just say header tab. And we have a section where the video sits. So we're going to say section. Then we're going to say hashtag video and hit tab. And Emmet has given us a section tag because we just said section. There was no dot or hash in front of that. But then we followed it with hash video. So that said, hey, the ID is going to be video because hash is ID. Then we're going to have a main section, right, where all the list type items are. So let's start by giving the background its color. So body, we want a background color of EEE, so very slightly darker white, basically. That's because our container is white. So let's give it a width of 560 pixels. Let's give it a height of 100 viewport height, VH. Right, and what that means is all the visible area of the screen, so not when you scroll down or sideways, this is the viewport, this is what you can view. So 100 VH is 100% of the screen, and VW is view width, so that's 100% widthways. Right, we still can't see it, so let's give it a background color of hash FFF. So that's the same as saying hash F F6 times, or writing white. So now we can see we've got a little bit of a block here on the left. Let's put that down the middle by saying margin. We want 0 margin at the top and bottom, but on the left and right we want it to be the same. So that would center it because they have to be the same. So that's auto. Cool. So the next thing we should do is probably, let's put this logo in here, right? So I'll have the link to the logo in the description. I'm just going to copy it here. So we're going to say img because we're using emit. We want it to have a class. So .logo This is so in the CSS we can change it. Then hit tab. We want then to fill out the src with the actual location of the image. So here's the location for me, and it's a bit too big. So let's change that. Let's go to logo in the CSS. Let's change it to width 120 pixels. Right, that's cool. So that's getting better. But if you notice on here, when we scroll up, this and the header, the video and the header stays in the same place, right? And if we did that now, you can see the YouTube is disappearing. So let's fix that before we go any further. So I'm just going to go above the logo and say, yo, header tags, I want you to stay fixed to the top. So we say position fixed. Right? Doesn't look like it did that much. But if I scroll now, and I'm scrolling, you can see the scroll bar here, it's staying where it is. Right, okay, so let's make this image centralized. We can do that by saying text align center. Right? He says. So we need to give it, so it is centered. So if I go background color red, you'll see the actual background of it is only a small amount, and we want it to be the full width, right? So we want it to be also 560 pixels, because when you make something fixed, you're taking out the flow of the document. So normally with a div, you'd go header, main, and it'd carry on going down the page one after another. What fixed has done is it's taken out that flow, and it's just saying, hey, I'm just going to stay at the top because you told me to. So with that, it has got rid of its width that it would inherit from the container it was in, right? So anything it'd inherit has got rid of. So width 560 pixels. And now that text align works. Look, if I take that off, it goes across there. Because now it knows what width it has. Right, that's good for now. So let's put in that video, right? And the way you can get this video embedded, you can do it straight from YouTube. So if I jump into YouTube, this is our playlist, and I click on one of the videos, and this is with any video, right? You go down here to, just zoom in a little bit, share, and click on that. You'll see this embed. And this is the whole link. This is the whole code even to what we need. So you can copy it out of there, or I'll link it as well, or whatever video you want. And we can just basically, inside this section of the ID of video, we can just paste that in there. Right? But it looks a little bit funny, right? So the video is scrolling, and we don't want that to happen. And this header is kind of sitting on top of it. So why don't we make this section the same position fix as the header? Well, it also needs the width, and the text align doesn't really matter to it. So why don't we just tag on to here by saying :section. So now these have both the same things going on, and then I scroll, the video stays there. But you can see that now the header has disappeared underneath it, because in the HTML, the section has come after the header, so it says, well, we're the same, we're both fixed, the hierarchy is the same, but I actually come lower down than you in the HTML, so I'm going to sit on top of you. So the way we can fix that is say, okay, header, okay, section, we actually need you to start lower down the page. So we want you to, at the top, be 50 pixels away from the top. And there we go, let's let it breathe a little bit. How about we give some padding to this YouTube logo? So let's go to .logo and say padding 10 pixels. And it actually has 10 pixels on the left and the right as well. But it doesn't affect it, so we're going to leave it. It saves us writing it out like 0 pixels here, right? It's the same thing. We don't need it. So 10 pixels. Looking pretty good. I scroll and it stays where it is, right? That's important. Okay, so now on to the main section. What we want to do here is we need an image and the details. So we could probably fit these in just one container and split this container in two, right? So we're going to do that very semantically. Jump into our HTML. And we're going to create an article and hit tab. An article is just a very semantic way of basically saying this is kind of the main container of what holds our content. You can use it in different ways, but for this, we're going to use multiple articles so we know what they are. They're an article, right? So what we need to do with article then, we need to give it two things. It needs an image, so img with a class of thumb, hit tab, and we're going to fill in that source. I've got a link here. I'll leave you the link in the description and put that right here in the source. And now you see a problem. We'll carry on. We also want a container, a div with a class of, I don't know, details. Hit tab. And then this div will have a h4. That's going to hold our title. And a P, so the P tab, and that's going to be our description. So I am a description. Right, so that's all the article needs to have, right? So it needs an image tag inside an article and a div with details inside an article. As you can see, it's right up here now. And the header doesn't seem to have a background. So there's a couple of things we need to do. Jump into our CSS. And for this header, so this is header and section, we can just give it a background color of that white color, which is 3Fs, hashtag 3Fs. Now it's disappeared, but we know the article's still hiding back here. So you've got to remember the article, the main section, this main section here, is in the flow of the page still. Now, the section and this header have jumped out of the main flow. So effectively, main is the first thing on the page. That's still in the flow, so that is at the top as well. So what we can do then for that is we can give main some padding to bring it down. Oh, sorry, main, curly brackets, padding. And we want to give it something like, so it's got a big padding from the top. So it's going to be like 370 pixels from the top, right? But we also want it to have some on the sides, so 18 pixels. And we don't want the bottom to be 370, so we can just give the bottom 10 pixels. And if we end it there, 18 pixels will work for left and right because we haven't specified the left side after the bottom. And that's fine to do. Right, so now it's actually visible. The image is a little bit big, so why don't we deal with that? Why don't we say the thumb, because we give the image a class of thumb. We want you to be height of 70 pixels. All right, that's looking pretty good. And you can do it width if you want. But I think because some of the thumbnails are different aspect ratios. So I think it just looks better that they're all the same height. So that's what I did on this. So we're getting there, we're getting closer now. Now we need this div container here to be at the side here. So we're going to do that by jumping into our article, and we need to say, yo, article, why don't you display as a flexbox container? So display flex, and as you can see, it's come at the side of it. It's a little bit disjointed, right? This is kind of down. The reason is because these have their own margins and paddings, the P and the H4. So let's pull them off now. Let's do some styling of the typography. We're going to do it at the top because I like to have my typography out of the way at the top. So the way we do this, we're going to use something in CSS. It's called a mixin. And basically what that does is it gives you some prearranged code which then you can use over and over again. So it's kind of like a variable, but in CSS. So to do this, we want to basically say, we're creating a mixin, so at mixin, then we're going to give it a name. So we want to create a section of code called font base, which we can then import into multiple CSS blocks. So we want to take off the padding, right? And we want to take off the margin. And we want to do a few other things. We want to give it a line height of 1.3, which is basically, if this paragraph carried on going down, the distance between the actual bottom of this line and the top of the next line, that's the line height. So we've just increased it effectively by 0.3. And we want to then say font weight 600 to make it bold. Now you notice nothing happened here. That's because we haven't called font base. So let's do that. So we're saying, hey, H4, we want you to be to include font base. So the way you do it, you say at include, so you include in it, then just call the name, font base. And you can see that just jumped up then because now it has the padding and everything else taken off it. The P tag, we also want that to be including our font base. So include font base, and watch what it does. Boom, there you go. But now they're the same, and in our visual, this is grey and smaller. So let's do grey and smaller then. Let's do that now. So color, which is how you get the font color. Just gonna call it grey because I know that's a good color. And we want to make the text smaller, so we're going to say font size 0.7 rem. There we go, smaller. And we're using rem, which is the relative elements. So it's relative to the browser default size. So most browsers 16 pixels default font size. So we're saying be 0.7 of that. Right, okay, so it's not looking bad. Let's add a few more of these articles in here. Let's just copy and paste this article. Copy. Alright, so we're just copy and pasting notes down the page. Here we go. So we need to now start adjusting some paddings, right? So the way we're going to do that is our article. So if we jump down to our article is only display flex at the moment. So it needs a few things. We want this details to sit in the middle of kind of the whole article. So we can say align items center, and that aligns centrally. You see it just moved down? We need to give it some of that padding. So we need to say padding we want to be padded at 8 pixels at the top and 12 pixels left and right. So that's looking a bit closer. Now we need a little bit more gap here. Notice how we have a little gap here. So we want to do that on the video description, right? So we'll just go underneath the thumb to keep in the right thing. So we want to say dot details. We want to say, yo, dot details, give us some padding. You can give us 8 pixels at the top and bottom and 22 pixels at the left and right side, which pulls it away. Cool. It's looking very close. So now we need to just do this hover, right? Have this nice little blue hover over it. So we can go into article and we can use another CSS helper, which is and or ampersand hover. That basically says article will replace the and. So in CSS you would normally say article hover. You'd do it that way. You don't need to do that in SCSS. You can just say and hover, and it knows you're dealing with whatever you're inside of, because we're still inside of these curly brackets, right? So and hover. So the article's hover. We want to have a border of 2 pixels solid, and we want this red color, which is hash FF9999, right? So now when we hover, there you go. But it's looking a little funky when they're kind of moving about. And that's because you're adding a border when you hover over it. So you're adding to the size of the article. So what you can do is just say border, this is on the article itself, 2 pixels solid white. Or we can use that FFF. It's totally up to you, it's the same. So now it already has a border on it, but you can't see it. So when we hover over it, it doesn't jump about. Right, we need to round the edges of this little red container and our thumbnails. So let's do that. Let's say border dash radius 8 pixels for this little red thing. There you go, it's looking pretty cool. And we want to do that on our thumbnail as well. So let's say border dash radius, let's say 4 pixels on this one. Okay, so 4 pixels on that one. And it's looking pretty good. We're pretty close to the end, I think. The only thing I want to do is just want to add I just want to add a margin 0 auto to my article. Just so it's going to always be in the middle of that main container. And it should be anyway, but just to be sure. Right, okay. And there you have it. We have a scrollable list. The video stays where it is, the header stays where it is, and you can scroll down. Obviously, we don't have the click functionality in yet. That's going to be dealt in the JavaScript and the jQuery in the next video. But in the next video, we're going to actually look at how to set up the API, how to get an API key, and how to make the calls and make all this information dynamic. It does mean we pull a bit of this information out of here. So you've wasted your time a little bit, but not too much, because when the result comes in, you'll see how cool it is. Okay, guys, so thanks for watching this video, and click the link at the end or the link in the description to go to the second part. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.